Welcome to Movie and a Beer, everybody. This is Dan bringing us in, and we have a full house tonight and an amazing film. So, who's sitting around the table with us?
Thank you for joining us, dear listener. This is Aaron, and I'm your Encyclopedia Britannica expert. Glad to have you.
Hey there, guys. I am Blake. I'm your Gene Hackman expert. He was in Enemy of the State, which is a pretty good movie.
Will Smith. With Will Smith.
Gene Hackman. This is Randall, and I'm your really enthusiastic Wes Anderson. I don't know, whatever. I guess.
I'm Otto. I'm the adopted.
He's the adopted one for this movie.
I'm the adopted one.
Did you also lose? Sorry, go ahead.
And this is Brian. I'm your poor self-portrait in crayon expert.
All right. So,
now,
Wes
Otto,
Anderson,
did you miss? Are you missing part of your finger and it's wood now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
How did that happen, Otto?
So I was in Indiana or whatever.
Yes.
Was that where?
and they were chopping wood.
Yeah, they're chopping wood, and the dude chopped the axe onto my ring finger.
That's so appropriate because we watched the Royal Tenenbaums tonight, and that happened in the movie.
To Margot Tenenbaum.
Amazing segue.
Right? What a coincidence.
Seriously. So,
And then after you lost your ring finger, did you find it hard to commit to a relationship?
It was my right ring finger, so.
Otto just got you.
You didn't
Brian.
need it.
Yeah, he did.
It wasn't
Burned you.
important.
he burned your
burned
heart.
you up.
Bad.
Talking to the mic, everybody. We need everybody loud and clear.
Loud
Don't
and
tell me
clear.
how to live.
We have a full house tonight to talk about the beginning of the new year and
Nobody wants to hear about
amazing stuff that's happening with all of us, because we're gonna personalize this movie. I'm surprising y'all. I'm gonna ask some questions.
that. I'm Richie.
So we were
God, am I Chaz? Oh
one of the-
no,
one of the
man, that's
questions
stressful.
Actually, we got that backwards.
Which-
I think you're Richie. I'm Chaz.
Okay, so this movie came out a while ago. It's not terribly new. This is Royal Tenenbaum and his wife Ethelene had 3 children, and they were separated after the children were 10-ish, 8 to 10, somewhere
Around there, like in the double-digit ages.
So
Early
virtually all memory of the brilliance of the young Tenenbaums was subsequently erased by the 2 decades of betrayal,
By
failure,
the
and
trauma of a failed family.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the father decides, hey, let's maybe try to get everybody back together since I'm going to be dying. So he gets kicked out.
Are we spoiling this
We're
movie?
spoiling the crap
Oh,
out of it, dude.
Father is a manipulative
Jerk.
I don't know if I could say the word bastard in on Spotify. But yeah.
Well,
He-
I like how you just did though. That's very clever.
Wait, I mean, the best way to say is, I don't know if I could say this word, and then you
I
preserve
just
your
say it, man.
innocence. And
I
say,
live my life like Richie.
But anyhow, Royal Tenenbaum is not. He's manipulative, and he's not actually dying. He's broke, and he's trying to be a leech on the people that were maybe most important to him at one point, and maybe never important to him.
Yeah, he's never held them in importance. And the only time he wants to be with them again until the end of the film is to leech off them.
Well, yeah, when they're useful.
When they're useful, yeah.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
really.
he pays them no regard whatsoever.
Okay. And so we knew, that we were watching these, and the other day, a few days ago, I happened to be over at Chill and Phil over on North Lombard, and I was like, I need to get some beers for this really
Love
amazing
Chill and
film.
Phil.
And I was like, all right, I do know the color red is very prominent. And so I picked a beer out by the color of red that's prominent on the can from Stoup Brewing. This is a Northwest Red
It's
Ale.
a gorgeous can.
And the other, I wanted something that was going to be sour, because this movie is a very sour beer oriented kind of thing from what I remember. And I happened to find something that has the subtitle of Long Island Sound Edition. So this is Sour Bikini from
Because
Evil
the whole
Twin
movie is
out of
basically
New York.
set in New York, right?
Completely
They never
New
actually
York,
leave the city.
Other than the one part where the daughter gets the finger
Yeah.
cut off. She runs away from
Right.
it.
Eye.
Runs away. And then also, Richie is on an ocean liner in several different parts
Somewhere
of the world.
near
in the
Nova
New York
Scotia.
Harbor. Yeah.
This is a Wes Anderson film.
His
It's
third film.
very,
Sure
very
is.
specific style of doing filmmaking and directing. We had a lot of conversation about the inside of the house shots. A lot of that looked like soundstage and or a play. While the daughter was a playwright, it also was very reflective.
Well, the
of
whole
it being
film
a very
feels
play.
play-like.
Well, I was going to ask. This wasn't one of my 2 smart questions, but one of the questions I wanted to ask.
We'll allow it.
We'll allow. Wes Anderson has a very distinctive, like what do we call it? He has a distinctive career, a distinctive style to his
Oeuvre?
films. Yeah, that's. I was trying to get there.
Oeuvre.
Look at who
He has,
think of the word.
he has
oeuvre, the
distinctive
trash panda.
eggs translated into the French, right? But I'm wondering, like, what is the most distinctive element of Wes Anderson's movies? Because you can find a number of things that are kind of this charming, quirky, and I don't want to say too much. I want to hear what everybody else has to say, and then I'll give my answer. But what makes a Wes Anderson movie distinctive, and what sets his movies apart from other directors? Let's just.
I was going to say, let's go in a circle from Aaron. I think it's the still shot with a centering focus on the characters. We watched a parody YouTube thing I asked everyone to watch, and it just nails that vibe of, oh, they're in the characters in the center of the frame. The frame is built up from them. It's very
Static.
focused. Yeah, static, exactly.
Yeah.
The less you do with the camera, the more you can do with the set. And so I think he really he composes every shot. And you can tell, and I think one of the things I do appreciate about his films is that he really considers every detail in that set. The camera is just a tool to set up the scene and allow the actors to move around. So you don't see a lot of people doing that these days with cuts every 2.5 seconds.
Oof.
Moving
Lots of cuts.
camera. You can hide a lot of garbage with that kind of
So
movement.
we did notice as we were watching how much static shots,
Yeah, locked off camera.
few like 2 slow-mos,
Yeah.
and then 1 boom cam towards the end that was like a single shot.
That single shot boom cam, I think, had so much more impact because the whole film had been setting up with still almost like documentary style, like interview style, up to that point. Otto, what makes Wes Anderson movies different for you?
Well, I think symmetry and color. Well, not for this movie, color. Maybe towards like his more recent movies and like color, but like especially this movie is very, very symmetrical.
Very monochrome
Yeah.
and very even.
Well,
I'd agree with the
very-
symmetry. The symmetry, yeah.
and I would also argue that even in this film, his palette is extremely limited. His color palette. It's
I was
a lot
gonna-
of reds, a lot of pastels.
I was going to say really
Beige
muted,
in the-
but I might be
Yeah.
incorrect in
Yeah, some
that.
shots
I
are
think
very
it's a really interesting juxtaposition with the dysfunction in every
Yeah.
film because his films are all about dysfunctional family dynamics. And
They-
so his
they
camera is
are.
super composed, but the characters are like
Falling apart.
existential, falling apart. You know, it's just a
Right. I mean,
strong contrast.
Yeah.
what I find interesting to me about Wes Anderson films is that art direction is amazing. All of his films look amazing and they're enjoyable to watch, but I hardly ever remember anything about them. and I think that has to do
I think
with
that the word's forgettable. Is like,
But Brian uses this complimentary way, I think.
I forget the plot, but I think part of that is reflective of the characters. They are so self-involved that you never care about them.
I never see myself in any of the characters.
None,
I never
yeah.
feel like,
And-
I
and
relate
theref-
to that character.
You're always
I'm
the
never
outside
so
observer.
engaged that I have to think about it and chew on it in any way other than as a master craftsman. I mean, he definitely is a filmmaker, but the style is, well, I wouldn't say it's more important to him, but he's so concerned with style that the stories often aren't memorable to
I
me.
think he's trying to work something out because if you look at every single one of his films, they're about father-son issues.
I made that note.
Right,
It's
every one of
always
them.
about family in some regard, or at least, if not family, just like, doing a father.
This is getting very close to one of my 2 smart questions. So I'm going to redirect and pivot.
Aaron's
Dan,
trying to show off, and
right.
I'll allow it.
So
what makes Wes Anderson movies distinctive?
it's the visual approach. I mean, having seen about 6 of them,
Visual.
there's so much to the framing and so much to the way the story's presented in a very linear fashion. There's not flashbacks. There's not, hey, we're going to spend 15 minutes in this history of this or that. It's everything is told linearly and everything is very framed, as we said, like almost as a play. There was a spotlight kind of play type situation in this where it was a dark room. You turn the light off. There was a spotlight on Gene Hackman and the son was standing in the doorway and it was just framed. It was like, it's just silhouetted and there's dialogue and you assume, hey, there's conversation happening in real time. It's not made up. They're really trying to have this conversation and then it ends very abruptly. So it's very, I think, as it's shown, each of the chapters is presented with the beginning being this actual like screenplay.
It's very storybook.
It's very
right?
storybook.
Yeah.
And I think he does that in a lot of them. He may not use that same guise. He may not use that exact same, methodology, but there's a lot of the same storytelling methodology throughout all the different films we've watched from him.
There's kind of, it's like chapter and then chapter and then chapter.
Yeah.
I would say for me, Wes Anderson, like every movie he does seems to have this almost painful nostalgia of, looking back at some elements from like the late 60s and through the 1970s of this like junior achievement culture of, exploring these like science clubs and these like, books that would teach you about like every bird in North America. This kind of like junior science sort of, I mean, we see this in like Life Aquatic. I think Rushmore has some of these elements too. It's definitely here, and there's always this sort of, I don't know. Randall, you had said that Wes Anderson might be working out something about his childhood.
Yeah.
I think you might be right, because there's always this nostalgia that's almost painful.
It's
to look back.
It's hyper real, like Disneyland. Like Disneyland points to like an America that doesn't really exist, but we all feel it kind of exists. Just like those clubs, we all think those clubs kind of existed like that, but they never existed like that.
This sort of, but not to the extent. Yeah, it's kind of overdone that way.
Yeah.
I don't know, Otto. So this was your choice.
How do you feel about the nostalgia as a child?
Not having any frame of reference as to what was shown. They
You
were
don't
using,
have to answer.
They were using telephones. They were using. No one had a cell phone.
Payphones, a lot of payphones.
No one. There were computers, but they were old style,
ancient elevators.
There were elevators that had somebody who needed to operate them.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on? I know that you're a buff for a lot of the old school stuff from the 80s and 90s.
Classic tech, as I'm going to start calling it.
So thoughts on that? I mean, did you think they represented that in a way that spoke to you in a way?
I feel like I did see like some like looking back like nostalgic things in this movie. Not as much as in Rushmore. Sorry to change the movie subject, but I saw this interview with Wes Anderson about like how when he was writing Rushmore, he basically like half of the movie was about like his childhood experience and Owen Wilson's childhood experience, because they both wrote that movie. And it fits. I would say that having been someone who lived through that, it fits very accurately. I've never been to New York for an extended period of time to know. I mean, the only person at the table that I know of is Randall, who's lived in New York for a period of time. Your thoughts on how they represented the city? Is the city part of just the background, or is it a character that's involved in the
I
film?
don't think the city is really a part of the movie. It could have been any major metropolitan city as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
The house seems
Although
important.
it would have been really fun
The house,
for them to
yeah.
be set in Chicago and just more yelling, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it maybe like that it helped create a metropolitan vibe that he was going for in this movie. I'm not really, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care for this movie. It's kind of bored me.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Dan, mute Randall's mic.
So maybe
interesting. I
the
never
city
realized
was
that.
interesting. I mean, I don't know.
Is it like, are there no characters that you really want to connect with?
I don't connect with any of the characters.
Right,
I
right.
don't love.
That's fair.
It takes place in New York, but as a New Yorker, it doesn't make me love New York. It doesn't show off New York in any special way.
I commented that it feels like they're showing all the greasy, gnarly backgrounds of
Yeah.
actual New York, where it's like graffiti on the walls and the subway's dirty. And
Well, this isn't
Like-
like a Woody Allen film. It's not
that
a love
could,
letter.
that could
True,
be
exactly.
any city, though.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
that just
exactly.
points to Wes
Yeah.
Anderson's attention to detail
Yeah.
in trying to make it authentic, except for maybe their
the-
house, which was clearly a studio backlot.
yeah.
It could have been
Yeah,
anywhere.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're all
can see
not.
that.
We have a little idea that the size of the home that they lived in, which is like a 4-story with a roof, with a bird cage, which happens.
My
You know,
yokel
like,
my yokel self was like, "Hey, what kind of building is that?" And you're all like, "What's an apartment building they just bought out?"
They live next to an embassy.
Yeah, next to the Chinese embassy
Yeah.
or
Is it
Was
something.
it
I'm
next
like,
to it? I
yeah.
thought it was somewhere else.
Would,
But it
would
also
there
was-
be a house like in Washington Park that would be like that?
Oh, I'm sure there's those
Yeah.
are neighborhoods in New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could be authentic.
Yeah.
That type of house.
One of the questions I had is, are there any Tenenbaums you could be friends with?
Wow.
And Randall, I think you might know you might know your answer.
Maybe Gupta.
Including the dog.
Yeah.
including the dog.
Oh, everybody loves Buckley.
Everyone's cool with
Buckley
Buckley.
survived.
Oh.
The manservant, as he was sort of described, Gupta.
Pagoda.
Pagoda.
His name was
Yeah, that's
Pagoda.
right.
Yeah. So Gupta was the person the son had the tennis match against that he imploded.
That's right.
and was literally just trying to lose as quick
Yep.
as possible. But yeah, I think Pagoda for me was someone who was just trying to do the right thing, and he even shanked him in the end. He's like, "I want to stab you again because you're dumb."
He stabbed Royal on
That's
these
a
two
good
different
scene.
occasions.
Yes.
It was great.
Yeah.
That's a good scene.
He stabbed him and took him to the hospital
Yes,
because he stabbed
both
him.
times.
I wouldn't hate. Well, I'd hate Royal, but I wouldn't hate getting drinks with Royal. And then rolling my eyes the whole time, texting you guys, this guy's a monster. He sucks.
Yeah.
But then listening to all of his stories, because he seems like a great storyteller.
Yeah.
Which is just a testament to Gene Hackman, who was notoriously hard to work with. He's been retired for, like 20 years?
Yeah, a while now.
Like, for some time. But what a phenomenal actor.
He's really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He lived up by my mom's house up in Stanwood, Washington.
Holy cow.
Or at least he has a house up there. So
Probably
I saw
grousing,
him every
stomping
now and
around. I'm Jimmy
then.
Hackman.
Yeah, this old guy.
So, what were your thoughts on? And I'm looking at you, Otto, because you again, you're the one that selected the film. So I have interesting questions to ask you about this. So, as far as the dialogue and the pacing, I know you've watched a lot of older stuff. Does this fit into the style of films and things that were made, or what they were trying to present as this is from the 70s or 80s? Because a lot of current films, and as your dad mentioned, a lot of cutting, fast stuff. No, this is very slow. This is very paced. This is purposeful.
It's deliberate, I'd argue. It's
Very
deliberate.
deliberate. Yeah. So, do you have any observations on that?
I think there are some aspects of like older movies in this movie, like like the like payphones and like all the stuff that like just like the stuff that's like in the background and stuff that like isn't really talked about in the movie. It just seems not very 2001.
It's a
Like-
point in time.
Yeah.
It's a
I'd say
time
like the
capsule.
car models
Yeah.
seem just bulkier and heavier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any thoughts on the length of the movie? Could there be stuff that could have been cut out, or just you thought it was good as is? Because I know this is your first time watching it.
We've been watching a lot of Wes Anderson films.
So slow pace, slow burn, as Blake often refers to. There's a long fuse. There's a climax at the end. He does, yes, we're going to spoil it. He does die, but not in the way
Wes
that he says
Anderson?
he's- No, the Gene Hackman
What?
gets to what he wanted. He got
A relation.
a relationship with his children and his grandchildren.
And hell of a
But he
gravestone.
didn't initially want that.
Correct. It was just because
That
he got
was his
kicked out of his
character
hotel.
arc. He actually and I mean that we can talk about what was the point of the film.
Yeah. What do you think the point was? Did he succeed?
There was no point to this. We are over analyzing this.
Randall, you don't
Oh.
like
How about
it.
this? Where does this rank in terms? Because we've been watching a lot of Wes Anderson films. We started with Rushmore. Where does this rank in the 5 movies we've seen now?
Yeah.
The last 5 movies we've seen have been Wes Anderson films.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this rank? Break it down.
So I feel like Rushmore. Wait, so I think this is number 3 for me,
Number 3. Okay.
but it's like a hair away from Moonrise Kingdom, which is my number 2 Wes Anderson movie.
Mhm.
I think this movie is a better movie, but like Moonrise Kingdom is like more cute, more like fun.
I like that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Otto, what's your number 1 Wes Anderson movie?
Rushmore.
Rushmore's so
Yeah.
good.
Rushmore.
Have you seen Asteroid City?
No, not yet.
I highly recommend it. Really enjoyed it in the
And
theaters.
Life
as well.
Aquatic is pretty funny.
Life
too.
Aquatic's
Yeah.
so
It's just
good.
funny.
It's a classic.
It's really
It's
underrated.
more, it's
Darjeeling
more funny than
Darjeeling
It's
Limited is
funny,
a great
but
take on
not
family.
memorable.
Not memorable though.
Fair.
I seriously, I'm like, I know they had Negronis.
So, Dan, at the beginning of the podcast, you were going to have us do this life experiment.
Yeah.
Life
And we're going to pivot away from that. Brian, what about the muted colors?
No. What was this new ritual?
I mean, it's so
How are we
obviously.
going to channel Wes Anderson?
Are we channeling because again we've talked a lot about he's trying to resolve something.
Right.
He's had trauma in his life. He's putting it on the screen for others to kind of say,
Absorb.
yes, I've absorbed. I've also had that trauma. I can relate to that. But as I'm in the same boat as Randall. I don't relate to any of this. This is very foreign to me as far
Yeah.
as my own family life and what I've experienced. That's my question is does this relate to you in some way that you can say, yes, I understand what their point is? Because there really isn't a point to this movie if you really, if you break it down,
Well-
it's just a film with actors telling a
It's just a
story
dysfunctional family
Right.
that are self-absorbed characters.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right,
So
here we go.
Every one of these characters, I think, has been hurt in some different way, and they've all have this pain. I think that they're carrying around, and I think all of them, to some extent have, maybe this, it's not quite like an imposter syndrome, but they know that their glory days were in the past, and they're kind of reconciling themselves with, I'm not a successful playwright anymore. I'm not a successful tennis pro anymore. I was a successful businessman as a kid, but now I live in this.
Mike, I know.
Oh my gosh, you were rich, you grew up rich, you had all this success, and now you don't know what to do with yourself.
Well, it's about finding,
Come on.
in this confusion.
Get him,
It's
Randall.
all
Light him up.
self-inflicted, like this suicide scene. It's all self-inflicted harm.
Yeah.
Amongst the family, they're inflicting it on each other.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But these are all interesting and like distinct characters.
In what
for
way?
me? What,
Yeah, but
In what way?
Aaron's under the
they're
microscope
all
right now.
self-involved
They're
that they
so
don't realize
self-involved.
they're inflicting harm on
yes.
each and every other family member.
Mhm.
And the cast of supporting outsiders who have been drawn into their orbit like a collapsing neutron star.
Right.
It sucks them all in. It's a black hole.
This movie was a black hole.
But,
So
but
the
they
black-
don't care either because they're self-absorbed.
Yeah.
The black
Even
hole
The,
Tenenbaums.
the only
Even-
one is
the
the
hawk.
Only lovable character.
the guy who stabbed him twice.
Yeah.
Not
Pagoda. We love Pagoda.
Pagoda.
Mordecai was abandoned and was stressed out, and that's why Mordecai's feathers turned white.
Other
Mordecai
than-
was hurt.
It certainly
too.
wasn't a stolen bird converted into a different bird.
Of
course not.
What do we feel about Danny Glover's character, Mr. Sherman?
He was just a standby. He was just an afterthought. He
Yeah.
had no role in this film.
He was
at
He didn't do a
all.
lot.
He might have been
I-
the only decent person in this movie,
Pretty
actually.
much.
He
He
was
was
a good
just hanging out.
I
Ethel
feel like
was a decent
Well,
person.
the mom tried.
Kinda.
She was
Tried,
trying.
yeah.
But I
She
think
was
she
trying,
tried her
but-
best.
But I think Sherman was a stand-in of like normalcy and decency and like emotional health.
He
Which-
owned a building.
which
As
is-
after
to
him.
this
but his character
shamble.
was so underdeveloped
Right.
that you didn't care about him either.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is reflected when Royal finally delivers the divorce paperwork and tells Sherman, "You're everything I'm not," or something to that effect. Which I feel like is reflected in all of our points about Sherman, in that he's not really that developed. He's kind of okay because Royal gets so much character just focus. The movie's about him. It's the Royal Tenenbaum.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
Sherman coming off as normal, falling into like a pit on an archaeological dig in New York.
in New York with
Question
skeletons.
mark?
All right, so but the thing
But
was, is
he's just so normal and average, which stands out in this movie full of weirdos.
my brain hurt because I was like, where the hell did this archaeological dig A come from? B, why is she there? Because she teaches
Archaeology.
Accounting.
bridge. She teaches
No,
bridge.
he
As a
teaches
hobby.
accounting.
She teaches.
He-
Is she an
they-
archaeologist?
They co-teach some.
No, he's an
some
accountant.
course.
He's an
He teaches
accountant.
bridge. I
They-
don't think they ever said what she does.
She's an
Like, why is she-
archaeologist.
She's an archaeologist.
She's an archaeologist.
So, Dan, why are you
uncovering
yelling
the
about it?
skeleton- I'm just like,
So
I don't know.
what Dan's question is why do they do archaeological digs in New York City when they're going to do new construction? And the answer is there may be like important
Well, there was
native
a-
cultural things
there was
that could be
freaking
buried.
skeleton there. She's like, "Well, just brush the dirt off." They're looking at a skeleton. I'm like, "Where's the
Hey,
police?"
Otto,
This
hey,
is a
Otto,
crime
is Dan
scene.
crazy?
Yes. Sorry, Otto.
No.
Well,
All right, let's look at
Good
the
answer.
answer.
long before time had a name.
Yeah.
Otto nailed it.
But so the skeleton could be like a colonial cemetery.
Oh my god.
Like,
Here we go.
let me do research on all the archaeological digs in New York.
I'm going to
City.
just pivot from this. This was supposed to be a really low-key job for Gene Hackman,
The Hackman.
who took it because he was near his retirement, and it turned out it wasn't, and it was one of the worst experiences Wes Anderson ever had to deal with.
I think I can feel that in the movie, and maybe that's why I don't like it, because I could tell just something was off about this Wes Anderson movie. for me.
Hackman's just cranky the whole time. He's having
Yeah.
a bad time. Wes Anderson's a relatively new, like, big-time director. Like, his first two films are Rushmore and
Bottle Rocket.
Bottle Rocket, which were relatively small,
Mhm.
like a great cast, but like not to the extent of like this range of actors.
not
And
like
Gene
AAA budget, right?
Exactly, and Gene Hackman's apparently notoriously hard to work with, and so poor softy Wes Anderson's like, all right, we'll do it.
Well, so Blake, if you're casting this film, would you make another choice aside from Gene Hackman? Like, would you put somebody else into the role?
I would have bumped up Bill Murray. I would have loved to have seen the Royal Tenenbaums with Bill Murray as the main guy.
Well, he was the main guy in
Rushmore
Sisu
and
and
in-
I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
he's too soft. I mean, he's not soft. He's Bill Murray's.
I don't know. He
kind
can
of
play.
an
He can
asshole,
play a
but-
jerk. He can
Yeah.
He can definitely play a jerk. Yeah.
But I feel like Hackman has a particular sharp edge. Yeah,
He's got-
exactly.
he's
The edge
gruff.
to him. The only other person I could maybe think
Well,
of was
he-
Chevy
he
Chase.
feels
But he's
like
so
he's-
charming.
Definitely. Yeah.
But he's so charming. It just I don't think it would work the same.
If this
way.
was like 100% comedy and no drama, Chevy Chase would have been perfect for this
yeah,
movie.
Ooh.
yeah, I agree with Otto. Yeah, absolutely. If this was all just made for laughs and no like drama in it, yeah.
Actually, I think even being a dramatic movie, sometimes comedic actors, I think, get underrated with being able to act in dramatic films.
Aaron, you're right, but
Yeah.
other comedic actors, yes. Chevy Chase,
No, I think
his whole thing was just doing shtick.
no, I think he could do it though. I think he could pull it off.
We'll
I
have to
don't know.
disagree
I don't know
here.
if he'd be better than Gene Hackman, but Chevy Chase could have carried the movie, in my opinion.
I respectfully disagree with you, but I love that opinion.
There were so many better movies that came out in December of 2000.
Please give us an idea.
Let's just go down the list.
down the list.
Lord of the Rings.
have we seen them all?
Lord of the
Yes,
Rings,
probably.
Fellowship of the Rings.
With all those halflings in it, weird.
Vanilla Sky. Monsters Inc. Oh my god.
I would
What a
rather
great
watch
movie.
this than Monsters Inc.
No
I'm sorry.
way, I'm sorry. Monsters Inc. is so good. Amelie. Amelie?
Okay, Amelie is a great film.
Emily's phenomenal.
I didn't realize this was like Emily is the same vintage as the Royal Tenenbaums, but that was
Same month. These are movies that came out. that
That's
month.
wild.
Looking for other good ones.
Aaron's so wrong. No,
Zoolander. Zoolander came out
We-
December.
yeah.
That's
wait,
wild that-
okay, all right.
that's wild that Ben Stiller did this and Zoolander in the same.
So-
Same with Owen Wilson.
Hold on,
Yeah.
we were just
And Owen Wilson.
we were just talking about comedic actors and their ability to carry dramatic roles. Ben Stiller, I'm serious. Ben Stiller did a good job here.
I agree.
You know, I now that you say that, I still don't think Chevy Chase would have been a perfect role for this movie, but I see how what you're thinking now.
I actually speaking like what if we're talking about what's his name? Steve
Carell?
no, not Steve Carell.
Martin.
Steve Martin.
Ooh.
Steve Martin. I think he could have done or Leslie
Or
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen.
Ooh,
Good
that
guess,
would've been
Otto.
weird.
Good guess.
You guys are making like gross noises. I'm like, no, Leslie Nielsen could have done
Leslie
this.
Nielsen. Well, he was a dramatic actor to start.
Right.
And then he did the airplane movies as straight as possible, and that was where the comedy came from.
Right.
But we're talking about the wrong movie. We should be
This
talking
is
about
like
the wrong
threadbare, faded patriarch of a dysfunctional
mhm.
family. I think Leslie Nielsen could have added.
I feel like he'd make it more dour, which is not a bad thing.
Is there anything left to say about this movie?
I know.
Right?
I mean-
I'll tell you right now. I'll be real with you boys and the listeners.
Real.
I teared up a little bit during all the parental scenes, like royal passing and all that stuff. It's heavy on my mind. I think it did that pretty well. Like, just families aren't perfect, but sometimes that's all you got.
Yeah, and make the best of what you got.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
That's the thing. You have to make the best of what you got, and I don't think these people did.
They sure
Well,
did.
They
They sure
certainly
did.
did not.
But I
No,
did,
they did
and
not.
seeing how bad it went for them, I got a little teary eyed.
none of these Tenenbaums would have survived in other families, though. They
Correct.
needed.
Take away that money, and they are. No one cares. about
Chaz
you.
might have made it back.
Yeah.
Chaz had a
I
business
think,
mind.
I think Chaz until he became a widower, Chaz probably was the one that
him
was successful.
That's what really got me was when he told his dad, "I'm having a bad year, Dad." Like,
Yep.
but there.
But that's the character or the development there that they're breaking through.
Or when he connected with Sherman saying, "I'm a widower too."
I'm a widow.
That-
That was
kinda
so
got
cute.
me, yeah.
That was so cute. I loved it.
That was the only character development he really had in the whole film.
That's fair.
Yep.
I'm not,
So,
I'm not
Otto,
tracking on
would you
Ben
watch this
Stiller.
film again later on to maybe recap and look at it again
for a
at another-
20th anniversary of Movie and a Beer? That's what we're pitching right now. You're gonna have to come back 20 years.
years and years and years?
Boys,
from now.
stay around.
It was 17 years since the children lived in the house, and it's been 17 years since Movie and a Beer watched this with
That's
Randall and
perfect.
Otto.
That's
Here
perfect.
we go.
But I feel like maybe in 5 years or a decade, I'd watch this again.
Been 23 years since I've seen it. I think I'll keep to that rhythm.
Rhythm.
Well, we'll just invite Otto next time.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
2048. We'll find
Only
Randall.
3 years.
To it.
2048. Yeah.
2048.
Randall just sitting off to the
So-
side, shaking his head and arms crossed.
So I have a couple questions for Brian. No nighttime shots. Inside a vehicle, inside a building, some outside building.
How them do muted.
Natural. How did you feel like the cinematography was done in a very kind of concise way? It felt very controlled. Like nothing was out of the ordinary. Like other than the boom shot at the end, which was a single shot, that felt out of
Yeah,
the ordinary.
it was very controlled, but he paid a lot of attention to framing. There were a lot of scenes where people were separated by an architectural
Yeah.
piece of some sort, or window, or door,
Or door frame or a window or something,
even
yeah.
the spotlight on someone's face.
Yeah.
Where they were much smaller than the surrounding shot, than the surrounding geography.
It's like Margot in the window seat, kind of sulking and smoking.
Right. Well, and she was in the background in lots of shots, just being there,
Working.
being depressed.
You said the phrase. You said the word ennui, which I
Ennui,
realized
yes.
that's what she's suffering from is
Yes.
ennui. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's there, but she feels a little bit like an outsider at the same time.
Well,
she's
as her
adopted.
adopted father pointed out, she was adopted.
Right.
At every chance he got.
Yeah. And I don't. Was that
God, what a
done?
jerk.
Was that done for comedic effect or done to character driven? Like I hate you and I hate all these people and why am I here?
I want to. My initial thought is in comedy, but I mean, Wes Anderson grew up in Texas with two his born parents. I don't think it's him processing anything. It's just, I think it's him going, "This is a thing a jerk father would do," and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You had some snacks over there, didn't you?
One.
You had a snack. So we're moving in a snacking transition quick
Can
to
I get some of those snacks?
goldfish. What? What'd you?
Parmesan goldfish.
Ooh, girl. All right. So what?
I'll be right back.
Got that sideways. Like, what? All right. So
But
some
you're busy
people
now,
haven't
Blake?
had.
When
some-
recording and you're suddenly too busy. To
Some of us haven't had Parmesan
Maybe
goldfish.
It's my
so-
favorite. It's probably my favorite flavor. It is my favorite flavor of goldfish.
Really? I
Yeah.
thought you liked the extra cheddar blasted ones.
It's fine, but like
Oh, they're
this.
fine now.
These are all right.
But a
Good
true
to
connoisseur wants
would,
these.
would
Yeah.
appreciate what these are. All right, so give us the rundown as to why these would make a good snack for just not this film, but any film.
I need just like one of those.
Smile about
I need
goldfish.
One goldfish.
One goldfish. All right, they're being passed around the table.
Take one down.
Give us a rundown on those.
So if I'm gonna be 100% honest with you,
Mhm.
I just picked the snack because I haven't ate it in like a month, and I just wanted to have it during the movie. I didn't know nothing related to the movie.
Any connection though? Now that you've had the snack with the movie, is there any common theme? The crackers are dry and a little boring. Perhaps
Don't tell her his opinion.
they're
like,
fancy, like Parmesan.
Randall, you're
but
being
not
real
really
royal
fancy.
right now.
Well, the crackers are white.
That will be our that will now forever be our phrase for the year. The crackers are
Crackers
For
are
the
white.
whole year we just started.
the whole rest of the year.
Bummer, dude.
Crackers are white, baby.
Actually,
Yeah.
Otto, yours was better than mine. I was going to say these crackers should have been for Life Aquatic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But yeah.
classic.
But yeah. So dry, sharp, decent flavor profile.
Pro tennis players.
Pro tennis playing.
Bag says 100% real cheese.
Real
It's way more real than any of these yahoos.
Correct. Any other thoughts on those?
Too many ingredients like this film. Too many characters.
Randall, do you hate other Wes Anderson films?
No, I love Rushmore,
Uh-huh.
Moonrise Kingdom,
Mr. Fox,
Talented Mr. Fox,
fantastic.
Steve Zissou,
So good.
Dogs.
Pile of Dogs. You guys see
Yeah,
that?
Pile of Dogs.
So
I need to.
I haven't
good.
yet. I haven't seen that
Really
one.
good.
Wow.
Put that
Oh
on the
my
list.
gosh, so
it's,
good.
It's really,
So this
really
one's
good thing.
distinct.
This is
and
just
it's
like,
just because the characters are also unrelatable, and it's just
and
like,
I feel like
Robot.
after this movie came out, everybody wanted to be Royal Tenenbaum.
Yeah.
right.
There's
This
this whole
was-
hipster vibe, and I'm like, I just
This
can't
was
hang.
kind of the Wes Anderson movie that kicked off the Wes Anderson vibe.
Yeah.
A,
it did.
a lot of people say like Rushmore, which
No.
was like it's like the birth of like some Wes Anderson shots, but this is definitely the first like first Wes Anderson movie.
What more
Yeah.
mainstream
Yeah.
success?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, or there's certainly like more visibility and kind of
Like
cultural presence.
more like only like one like still shots and like shots where like one full shot, just like yeah.
Well, I will say his movies, he's pushing it to an extreme now, which is kind of sad for me because I think there was a sweet spot somewhere around Steve Zissou where it was like just enough style, but the characters were still likable and there was enough story. Now it's like if you look at his newest ones, they're just like
Yeah. Too much.
super
over the
pers-
top.
It's just over
Perfect.
too perfect. Too perfect.
Mm. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
uncanny.
Yeah.
It's
Dial
it's
it back a
not
little bit.
realistic in any way,
No.
shape, or form. So is he storytelling to tell fantasy
I don't
at
know.
that point? Because it's not even relatable from the visual standpoint at that
Yeah.
point. Because it's like, yeah, that's just
It's
doesn't
so
exist in
off-putting.
real. It's really
you,
off-putting.
you aren't involved in the film anymore. You're just
Yeah.
a viewer.
It's like
See-
some people care about like typography. Like I think typography is cool, but like there's some people just like, oh, it's not kerned right.
Oh,
The netting is off by 0.1 pixel, and I'm like, oh, come on, man.
See, I always thought that was part of the like auteur vision of like when you see a Tarantino movie, you know what you're getting. When you see a Wes Anderson movie, you know what you're getting. Like when you see a
Yojimbo film.
exactly, like you know the vibe you're gonna get. I
Kurosawa?
always thought
Kurosawa film.
Kurosawa,
You know what it is.
I would say Wes Anderson though, he's going to an extreme. Like Tarantino, it's always Tarantino, and it's the same Tarantino. It's not like
There's not really a
dialed in.
progression. There's not a progression. I mean, there's levels
he has his
within a
vision.
confinement. It's
So
like
you're
you may
saying-
hit a peak at one point in a movie, but then you're going to maintain
Yeah.
a consistency. Whereas this is growing to
got to up the last
So
one.
you're
Perfect
saying he
shot.
is evolving as an artist, but not evolving
And
into
not-
something that you appreciate as much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can still appreciate the newer ones, but not like it's
Not at the
It's
same
not
it's like-
enjoyable.
It's like diminishing returns.
yeah.
You know, it's like
Interesting.
So Wes Anderson is evolving, and gummy bears evolved into gummy worms,
and gummy fish.
and gummy fish. What's the perfect snack to accompany this film?
a 25-pound gummy bear. Have
And
you
you
seen
just have
these?
to, like,
no.
hack off a little
Yeah.
piece.
Have you seen these giant gummy bears? They're
Wait,
like
this is a
5
real
pound-
thing? I
No,
thought
they're
you were
No,
like
they're
just
like 5-pound gummy
they're like
bears.
5
No, they
pound gummy
exist.
bears. It's
You
just
have to
too
sing a
much.
song
It's too
from the
much.
You have to
Dune
just
2 movie.
hack off with a big knife.
Yeah.
wait. So you have
a
to like
little bit at
stab
a
this
time.
gummy bear to eat it.
Yeah,
Yes.
you got
You have to like you have to be like
serrated knife.
pagoda.
You're either that or you're just
Eric-
sucking on a limb. You're
Aaron-
sucking on a limb
And that's
for a little
just
while.
like weird nursing.
Yeah.
It's worse than that. You have to sing a song from Dune 2, which I won't do here because I don't want to make Dan do the work. But you have to sing that song, summon the worm, and the worm brings you a beer. Hey, speaking of beer,
Yes. So I think
In
this is-
addition to snacks,
in addition to snacks, we a few of us
these goldfish are
imbibe-
amazing, by the way. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing the goldfish. They're very awesome. This is the time of the podcast we're going to maybe switch over and talk about beer for a few moments. Good film. We're talking about
The Royal Tenenbaums.
The Royal Tenenbaums.
Tenenbaums.
Alec Baldwin.
Oh, Alec
Alec
Baldwin was my favorite.
He was
the
the
best.
best.
He was my favorite. Yeah.
He was the best character in the whole film because all he did was talk.
He,
Yeah.
he narrated, and he had a
Narrated.
beautiful husky voice.
He didn't talk about himself.
Who doesn't,
He
love,
didn't.
He
That's,
didn't talk about himself once.
that's what's important.
Only
who
character.
doesn't love a good Alec Baldwin now and then?
I know.
You know,
I know, right?
What-
I think like
Yeah.
movies that
Lemon,
use
Lemon, come in here.
movies that use narrators to like good effect. I'm thinking like Ron Howard famously has done.
Arrested Development.
Yeah, like well, yeah.
They
so-
didn't do that.
Yeah, right. And I mean that's adds so much to Arrested Development in viewing it. I think the narration here kind of did the same. Like it kind of gave it context, gave it some structure, gave it more emotional weight. I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but I think the narration.
I'm realizing now it kind of faded out around halfway through the movie and just
Yeah.
stopped happening.
It did, and I'm
it
here
was
to
so
narrate
delightful
us
to have it.
through the beers that we
Beer time.
Yeah, so let's have some beer
had
narration.
some.
The boys at Moving a Beer had a collection of beers.
We had a couple.
So
then
beer
like-
narration
as-
would be bearation.
Berry.
Beeration.
It's a beeration. So, as mentioned earlier, I stopped at Chill and Fill up on North Lombard. Here
No, Otto
in
was
North
there too.
Portland.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dan.
I love
And-
chilling.
Thank you.
And they
Well,
do a
let's
good
go to
job with
beer
their
places.
drafts, and they have a decent size cooler selection of various things. I've been to Stoup Brewing up in Seattle. This was a beer that I had had before, and I was like, hey, this is similar to the hoppy red that I make, except that it's a little bit more controlled as far as it's not very hop forward. Mine's a little bit more hoppy. This one is just a clean red that I picked it simply because A, we haven't done a beer from Stoup yet, and I've had them, they're good, and B, it's red. And there's a lot of red from one of the Sun that's the super number cruncher. He wears a lot of red jumpsuits. And I thought, okay, this is cool. So this is a Northwest Red Ale from Stoup Brewing out of Seattle, Washington. This is 5%, 40 IBU. Provides a distinctly Northwest hop character balanced with restrained malt sweetness. Uses 2-row barley along with best malt, Red X, to create a rich red color and a smooth, satisfying taste and a hint of chocolate that seals the deal. I just read all the marketing copy for you. I'm sorry.
Well, that's great because
Aaron.
it's not on the can.
Okay. So this is on their website and most of the stuff that they put out there about the beer. So, gentlemen, thoughts on this beer? I really enjoyed it. I thought it went good with the first part of the film because it was kind of a setup.
You beat me to it, Dan. I was going to say for the first half, flawless pick. Like, it's soft, it's tasty. There's not a lot of like overbearing flavor.
It's not distracting.
Which matches with the setting up of all the
soft and tasty Tenenbaums.
Aaron.
They were introduced.
There's
they're
a child
introduced as
present.
children.
Randall, I apologize.
They're children, so you need a soft approach. I mean,
it's
you're
setting
learning.
up the play. It's setting up all the characters like a play. It's just here's all the things happening. Here's what's happening. Who else is going to get resolved? And then you get the resolutions later, which we'll have the other beer to talk about.
Yeah. So, Brian, you're the more malt profile person in the group. Thoughts on this one?
Well, I've got to say that I like the kind of traditional Irish red ale more because this is using Northwest hops, as we discussed before the podcast. And so this is a little bit sharper, hoppier profile. I did think it went well with the film, but I actually thought the second beer went better.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a moment.
How dare you?
Yeah. So, Randall, any thoughts on this one? You had a taste of it?
I had a little bit. I had half a pint, and I thought it went great with the movie. It was easy to drink, and it didn't distract me from all of those self-involved individuals on the screen. It didn't distract me at all.
Is there another movie?
And that's a shame.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Are there other genres of film you think this beer would work well with?
Like a Western, maybe.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I could see that.
A good old. I've been thinking about that
slow.
movie Old Henry that we watched a long time ago. I get to rewatch that. That was a classic,
that was a really
and I
good
think
film.
this would go well with that.
Yeah.
True believers, go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah.
Episode number
Now.
28.
I think it was the second or third season. I can't remember. But anyway, so Aaron, thoughts on this? Because you tend to enjoy more hoppy stuff than not.
Well, I
And
like
the wine-
sours.
You like sour?
You like a wild
Sharpness,
flavor.
Yeah.
I'm a wild drinker, and well, no, I'm not. I'm not a wild. No, I tend to agree with Brian here. I think this red was enjoyable, but I don't quite like the Northwest hop profile in a red ale. So like a traditional Irish red is going to be a little bit more my speed. But as Brian mentioned, I also agree again too. I think the second beer that we had matched the film a little bit better.
Okay.
And I think I enjoyed that beer just a little bit more too, as it being more to my taste.
All right. We'll talk about that now. So
Well
this
pivoted.
is a sour IPA from Evil Twin Brewing. This is the Long Island Sound Edition. So I picked this simply because it says Long Island Sound Edition. And so Evil Twin is out of New York. They have 2 tap rooms. They have one in Brooklyn, I believe, and then I don't remember where the other one is. But they have been around a while. They do a lot of collaborations, but they also focus a lot on big stouts and sours. From a sour beer perspective, this is a 4%. This is literally just like a whole lot of lemon. It doesn't even taste like beer at all to me, really.
great.
It's just
I loved it.
very tart and sour, dry, thin. There's the body up front just sits a little bit kind of doughy up front, and then it just goes into that citrus vibe, which I thought really worked well because there's so much kind of bitterness going on the screen. It's like, oh yeah.
This is a family with acidity, and
Yes.
this is a beer that's got some acidity.
Very
Oh,
much.
I get it.
Any other thoughts?
I have some acidity for you, Blake.
I have all
Stop
kinds of
throwing lemons at
acidity.
me. Aaron's always throwing lemons at me, listeners. Please donate
Lemon
so he stops
bombs.
doing it.
I used to be a very successful lemon farmer, and you used to be a very successful movie star, and now we're both embittered.
Yeah, I'm Merle Tenenbaum.
He's calling it out. All right. Everyone here
Beautiful.
had a taste except for our good
Our youth correspondent.
You don't know that.
I don't, but I'm assuming you didn't. But anyone have
Never
additional thoughts on?
Your phone.
You are not necessarily a sour drinker, Brian.
I'm not, but I really like that. Like you said, it basically was just lemon. It was like a lemon shandy, or
Yeah.
That might be why I liked it so much.
And
I love it. Just
it was just kind of a light summer drinking. I mean, in that way, I don't know if it matched the film
See, I got more
because it was
sour.
kind of a
Easy drinking.
easy drinking. Yeah, like relaxing, just sit back and enjoy. Summertime
Yeah.
vibe.
And this movie is notoriously set in the winter because we see snowfall during one of the pivotal points of the movie, which I can't remember, so it's not that pivotal.
Yeah,
The funeral scene.
in subject matter, it
Yeah.
definitely is kind of this dysfunction, and I mean, there's a moment of redemption at the end where the family kind of all is unbroken. But this really isn't the beer that tells that story.
Yeah, crisp and refreshing are not words people associate with the Royal
this
Tenenbaums.
film.
With
Yeah.
Mordecai the Hawk.
Right.
But it was an enjoyable beer, and it was not a bad beer. So in that way, I like drinking beer, watching movies.
Did you guys
Thank you for
notice
coming
the
to my TED
Falcon?
Talk.
The Falcon in this movie was stressed out from this family.
It was
Right.
so
From
stressed
its
out. It ran
abandonment
away.
It started
Richie.
changing the white
hold on.
feathers.
It left the
started-
family and it was
Yeah,
flying
left.
around the city of New York as a
Well,
hawk.
yeah.
That's probably why it's stressed.
I think if the stress was from the family, it would have had white feathers before it left. The stress
Was that
came
before or
after.
after it ate the pizza rat?
And
Oh,
while it was left in
Yeah.
its cage on the roof for 10 years.
But there is
Oh,
something
man.
how one family member has a hawk and the other family member had all these mice.
Yes.
One family member has a predatory animal, other family member has these prey
Ooh,
animals.
and the other one has a wooden ring finger.
And
Yes.
well, yeah, what's the spirit animal on Mario? Well, we shouldn't say it
A
that way.
tree.
That's disrespectful. What's the
and
tree and
the animalistic representation of a tree?
actually,
spirit
it
animal.
makes sense. She's very still, solitary,
world
Sits in a
Very slow
bathtub 6
very-
hours a day.
very
and
slow to
smokes.
like Ents
Yeah.
in the
I could
original
drink-
Silmarillion.
I could drink a lot of these sour beers on a roof in New York.
Yeah.
Watching Falcons,
Ooh.
that would be
Right,
like I
absolutely.
could
That
spend
would be a
all
nice
evening.
afternoon,
That would
yeah.
be like I'd be very happy.
All
doing
right.
that.
Cool. Right on.
We're gonna set that date. We're gonna record from the roof of a New York City
Yeah.
building.
Yeah,
Get
so this
some
is
Falcons
only
there.
and so both
Hell
of these
yeah.
beers are fairly low alcohol. The second one, the sour one, is only 4%. So this is almost a shandy level.
Perfect for hawks.
I mean,
Sorry.
it again, and I think that was a good call. It has a very lemon forward flavor that doesn't have any kind of alcohol flavor at all to it. It does taste like lemonade, and that could be dangerous for some people because it doesn't really have that beer profile at all. And there's something to be said for people who can do that effectively and still like not make it offensively too sweet or too sour or
right,
too
right.
tart.
Like not
It's
not a
constrained. They knew what they were going
not
for.
a sugar drink.
Yeah.
You meant do that effectively as crafting. I thought
Yeah.
I misheard you and misunderstood. I thought you meant do that effectively as drinking it.
Both.
Well, Aaron, the most effective way to drink it is to chug it.
Yeah. And I did. I drank this very quickly because I was like, oh, this is just really nice, clean.
I caught myself having to slow down. Like, hold on, there's still some movie left.
It went down very easy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
it did.
So, other movies this beer would have worked with, in your opinion, Daniel?
Evil Dead.
Ooh,
I want
I'm
some
into that.
sharpness. I want some sourness. I
that
want.
movie's full of sharp stuff.
I don't know. I'm just digressing a little bit because I
Zoolander.
enjoy calling it out of left field, and so yeah. I think this film didn't necessarily match up to the beer. The beer didn't. I mean, again, we all really liked it, but I would agree. I could sit on the roof of New York and watch the birds go by and the pigeons go by and have the homing pigeons,
Homing hawks.
or homing hawks, or
The one
whatever they
hawk.
were. But not really. I think the character development. I thought, okay, a sour would go well because I know the story is really souring and depressing and this and that, but I don't think it really lent to it. For other types of films, again, like an action horror or something like that, or even just something fun and mysterious.
Clam bake with Elvis.
There you go. Any
Okay,
beach
Otto,
movie,
tell us all about clam bake.
any beach
So-
movie ever.
You don't have
It's
to have
on
an
you.
answer. I was assuming that it's such an old movie that
No,
Lane
no,
Bryant
no,
would
I-
know about it.
I love
What's your
clam
favorite?
bake.
What's your favorite summer movie, Otto?
Summer movie?
Yeah. What's your
Ooh.
favorite beach movie?
So my favorite Christmas movie is probably
Flawless answer.
It is Christmas and summer in parts of the world.
It is.
yeah, but not here. Not here.
Not here.
But like a good summer movie.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom, yes.
There you go.
Waking Life is a good like transition to autumn and summer movie.
This Waking Life came out when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Holy
December
cow.
of 2020 or October of 21 to 2001, not 21.
Just
So,
as everyone.
so what about any of the
Holy
like
cow.
Back to the Future or Ghostbusters or any of the other 80s films that we've done episodes in the past on? Or I know you used to know a lot about those kinds of things. Would the idea of doing something sour, lemonade-y, and like that refreshing summer movie vibe?
Do you like lemonade?
I like pink lemonade.
Oh, pink lemonade.
A good
So good.
regular lemonade hits the spot.
That's because Otto is a man of class
Pink
Yeah.
lemonade's
and
good.
standards.
Does that go good with the Parmesan goldfish? Pink lemonade.
It would.
What's the next Wes Anderson movie we're gonna watch? Are we gonna watch any more? Or are we gonna stop?
No, but like here just has to.
I mean, just in general.
Mm.
Just like, what's next?
I've heard he's making like a claymation Holocaust movie or something like
Are
that.
you serious?
Yeah, I heard like
Claymation?
Huh.
Okay.
I
I assume
Wow.
the same
Sure.
style as
Yeah,
Fantastic
yeah.
Mr. Fox and Allen.
So, well, Otto, have you seen the Grand Budapest Hotel?
That might be
No.
the next one we
I
watch.
think that's the next one. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you guys seen his American Express commercial?
Oh, it's so good.
Yes.
Hilarious.
It is really good.
What about other like quirky comedies? I was thinking like this sour, I could watch Napoleon Dynamite and drink that beer and be happy.
Quirky sour.
Napoleon Dynamite's not really that sour to me, personally.
It's more like a soft cheese.
Sure.
That's how I always
Like
assume it.
Not a sharp cheese.
nachos flavored beer.
Nacho flavored beer.
Not even beer. It's just like a soft chunk of cheese. I don't like Napoleon Dynamite that much.
Remember when Dan was gonna mute Randall's mic?
Oh.
So,
Now it's time to mute Blake.
You can't mute me. I'm unmutable.
Okay, this is a quick
You
diversion.
can't stop the signal.
Sorry, please indulge us,
I'm
listener.
on a
But
pirate ship.
but,
I'm playing the radio.
Blake, what about Napoleon Dynamite? Don't you like? Because I kind of associate it as being similar to Royal Tenenbaums and being this offbeat, quirky comedy about unusual characters.
The setting, I guess. I don't care about the Midwest.
It takes place in Idaho.
I care about you.
It's not the
I don't care about the
Midwest.
Midwest.
Idaho-
It feels Midwest as
Idaho.
hell.
Idaho is not the Midwest.
It feels very Midwest, and I do not care.
It reminds him too much of his own childhood.
It kind of does. I grew up with those people, and I do not like them.
Since M.I.M.
But I like you, Aaron.
you
I
know
like
what?
you, Brian, and Otto, and Randall, and
I,
Dan.
you know what? I
Names in
understand
him.
this because there are a lot of people that think Swedish Chef is the funniest Muppet, and like, no, it's racist and insulting. We don't speak like that.
Well, no.
Yes, you do.
You do.
Beautiful pork.
Aaron's moving his arms again like he's controlled by another man.
I know. Do you have an arm shoved up inside of you with your
Daniel.
Anyway,
This is a kids show.
Should we heighten
Otto's
the
here.
emotional harmony here and walk out of this place in slow motion?
slow mo.
Put our mics down in slow
To
mo.
an indie band.
Only if we have an
Yeah.
explosion behind us.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's not Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
It's very calm,
All right.
quiet indie music.
Any other final thoughts before we close this out?
It's a hell of a tomb. It's a hell of a gravestone. Which were mine.
Yeah.
The best part of this movie was watching it with you guys.
Yeah.
Aw.
We're here with you.
Miss
buddy.
you guys.
Back at ya.
Miss
All
you,
right.
Randall.
You guys are awesome. You're okay, my
for the
book
listeners, Otto's doing a really over the top arm patting.
Like very like exaggerated, like
Yep.
That's very Wes Anderson of you.
Mm-hmm.
sure.
We're not dysfunctional, are we?
Not anymore.
Nah. Actually, yeah, maybe.
All right.
Tune in next time as we talk about Randall and Otto's dysfunction.
Yeah.
So
So
Chapter
at
one.
this point, I would like to say he's gonna go stand in the corner and scream.
he got a case of the ennui.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. All right.
Okay.
So as always, the opinions expressed during the taping of this recording are those of the hosts, and thank you all for hanging out and listening and enjoying this film. If you do watch it, find something good to drink. Do it with friends because we were yelling at the screen during it, and it's fun to watch with friends because it's good film.
assuming you have friends.
Correct.
Wow.
We all at least we're friends here locally.
No,
We
yeah, but
have,
like,
we
so-
have
yeah.
friends here, but yeah.
Our listeners are socially well adjusted and absolutely have friends. They
We
absolutely
hope.
have friends. So, and dear listener, thank you for joining us. As always, please take care of your birds. Ensure that you do not get ransomed and kidnapped and stolen from under your care. You might have to find a replacement bird that has slightly different features to continue having your bird pet with their bird life. Thank you.
This is Blake. If you don't hydrate, you're gonna dehydrate. That's me. That's me
channeling.
Margot Tenenbaum.
All right, go write your play now.
This is Randall, unemployed falcon trainer.
Oh.
You guys need a trained bird. I'm available.
I'm in dire need.
Not very good. Sometimes the birds come back, sometimes they don't.
They're like homing pigeons.
I don't know how I got here, but I'm in this now, so yeah.
I'm Otto, and just a reminder: if you eat these cracker white crackers, if you just don't turn into
Wait, start from the top
Yeah,
like you're in a Wes Anderson film. Here's your card.
okay.
Chapter 10.
Chapter 10.
Chapter 10.
Epilogue.
Chapter 10, Otto
Auto.
is at the podcast.
Epilogue.
There's one light in the middle of the room.
Otto ends podcast, puts microphone to mouth,
After this,
slowly
Okay.
says.
I'm doing an Alec Baldwin impression. After this, the podcast ended, and they all lived happily ever after.
Everybody, this is Brian. Thanks for listening to the chaos.
Bye.
Dysfunction, chaos,
You're welcome.
Beautiful hurt family.
We're all hurt.
beautiful hurt.
All right. Bye bye. Thanks for listening.